Добрий день, я вітаю всіх, хто приєднався.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. We continue our operation. My name is Olga Atamanova. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 426 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by the Russian aggressor. And now we will be talking about the operation of our nuclear power plants. Joining us online is Oleg Korikov, the acting chairman, chief state inspector for nuclear and radiation safety of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleg. Good afternoon and glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Mr. Oleg, let's start our conversation with Chernobyl nuclear power plant. A year has since the occupation of Chernobyl area. So after a year, have we made it reestablishing the monitoring in this area and coping with the consequences of occupation? Thank you for the question. Chernobyl exclusion zone was under occupation from 24th of February all the way until the 31st of March of 22, and it was not only the nuclear power plant that ended up under occupation, but also a number of facilities that are operated in the area of nuclear power, which are located in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The occupation resulted in the conditions that disabled the safe operation of the facilities. The alleyways of approach were cut. The access to the facilities and the logistics ways were cut for supply of the equipment and materials, and the personnel for safe rotation of those facilities. The logistics was completely destroyed. As we were informed by the licensed enterprises, there were damage and losses of the office buildings. The occupiers were pilfering telecommunications equipment, the measuring equipment and diagnostic devices, and after the deoccupation of Chernobyl exclusion zone, there is still the recovery effort going on. The resumption of the safe operation of Chernobyl exclusive zone, us, I mean the state inspectorate, this developed the number of documents which are aimed at support of the recovery of the safe and secure operation of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Those documents were developed with the support of the Norwegian Agency for Radiation Safety and were developed by the Western experts in the field of the radiation and nuclear safety. For the time being, there is a monitoring mission of IAEA, who started its operation in January this year. They are present constantly 24/7 at the exclusion zone and the nuclear power plant itself. They arrived in there upon the invitation of Ukrainian side and personally of the President of Ukraine, and their mission is in documenting of the influence of war and the study of priority needs of the enterprises and the needs of Ukraine in the area of nuclear safety and security, and timely provision of support and assistance. Starting from the April 2022, we cooperate with IAEA to support our facilities, our enterprises which were damaged during the occupation. So here we're talking about the replacement of the damaged equipment, supply of the spare parts that we are unable to get supplied due to the damage of the logistics and destruction of the logistics chains that existed before. So this is how we try to resume safe and secure operation of our facilities with the help of the international donors. There were 12 countries who supported their assistance for emergency response, the emergency response network. It's Australia, USA, Romania, Hungary, France, Israel, Japan, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain. Those countries published their proposals about the support available for Ukraine. There were agreements signed with 10 of those countries. The agreements are being implemented. There is a plan of actions aimed to support Ukraine under the procedures of IAEA. And as of today, the humanitarian aid is incoming from Romania, Spain, France, Australia, Hungary, Sweden, Germany, Switzerland, Canada, and Israel. We want to thank all of our international partners for all that support, which is very important to us. As of today, the humanitarian aid, well, yes, we continue to exercise advisory support to our facilities which work in the area of radiation safety and security for resumption of the safe operation. Mr. Oleg, as to the situation in Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, what's the situation there? Was the security situation there? What do we know? What's going on? Thank you for this question. It's been more than a year that Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is occupied by Russian invaders. The occupation resulted in degrading of radiation and nuclear safety in the facilities of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. That opinion was confirmed by Rafael Mariano Grossi, who was heading the rotation of the IAEA experts in Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The visit was taking place a month ago in the end of March this year. So the process of degrading is underway. Until this very moment, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant was transformed from the supplier of the electric power, from the biggest supplier of electric power to the biggest consumer. Its capacity is 6,000 megawatts, and its annual output was over 36,000 megawatts per year. It was accounting for more than 50% of all the nuclear energy generated in Ukraine. The occupiers are in full control of the nuclear power plant, and it results in weapons, explosive devices, military material being brought to the nuclear power plant together with the Russian propagandists. The Rosatom officials tried to bring the Belarusian personnel to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant who are not properly licensed and who don't have experience in operation of the power plant, and at the same way they block any access by the Ukrainian specialists who have relevant experience and who are properly qualified to work in the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The nuclear power plant is transformed into a repair base. The military material is being repaired there. The ammunition and weapons are being stored, and in the turbine compartments number 1 and number 2, as of today, there is still the storage of ammunition and explosive devices. The areas adjacent to the nuclear power plant are mined, and sometimes there are some emergency events going on because the animals keep coming, for example, to the territory of the nuclear power plant. On the 12th of April, for example, there was an explosion which resulted from some random animals coming to the mined areas close to the nuclear power plant. The occupiers interfere into the operation of equipment and they illegally modify its operation. There are also illegal modifications of the operation of the storage for the processed nuclear fuel. There is such storage in the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. There was some concrete structure built over it, and also violated is the regime of operation of the auxiliary diesel generators and the system of both the two systems, the systems of heat and electric power supply. So we don't have control over the emergency response because the crisis center is being captured too. In fact, there are Russian military billeted in there. The equipment was stolen from there, and the reserve crisis center, which is located in Zaporizhia, does not receive any signals as to the condition of the safety and security systems in Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and it cannot operate properly in case of any emergencies on Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Also, a part of the fire teams who were working in Energodar, they lost their readiness and they are rendered out of operation due to the terror by the occupiers. There is no stable electric power supply to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant at the moment. As we know, for the time being, the nuclear power plant consumes the electric power from Ukrainian grid, but we have only one line through which the electric power is coming to the nuclear power plant without any backup lines, which is unacceptable because there are 6 power blocks that are loaded with nuclear fuel, and respectively there is a need to feed the equipment with electric power, the equipment which would ensure safety and security of the electric blocks, including the equipment which drains the heat. And within the last year there were periods, there were 5 cases when, or 6 cases when the nuclear power plant was disconnected from electric power supply, and every time such disconnection happens, the backup generators, stationary backup generators, start working. There is 20 such reserve generators. There is the reserve of fuel, which is sufficient for 10 days of uninterrupted operation of such backup capacities, and within that period it's necessary either to re-establish the connection to the grid or otherwise to increase the provisions of fuel for operation of the backup generators. In case of absence of electric power, in case of incapacitation of the backup diesel generators, the process of damage of the active zone of the reactor may begin, which may result on radioactivity beyond the building of the reactor, and its emission to the atmosphere. It's a very dangerous scenario, and we have to do everything we can to prevent it. Due to the occupation of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, there is no opportunity to implement the fundamental principles of nuclear and radiation safety and security, the culture of safety, and to reestablish responsibility of the operating organization, because all the protection is destroyed and the emergency response capabilities are destroyed too. Thus, the risks of emergency in the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant increase, while our opportunities to react properly to mitigate the consequences of any potential emergency decrease. Ukrainian stance is consistent and clear and transparent. We need the full deoccupation and demilitarization of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and its return under the control of a competent operating organization, and return of the representatives of Ukraine to all the generating capacities and facilities of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Mr. Lek will know, well, this is how I would end my answer. We all know that our armed forces are preparing for a counteroffensive. It will be launched, we hope, soon, and we hope that soon we will be witnessing the liberation of a Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. But are you ready to the liberation of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant? What should be the safety protocols for relaunching, for getting it reconnected to the Ukrainian grid? Are those protocols already developed and are they in place? Thank you for this question. Obviously, we are preparing for liberation of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. First of all, we resumed the operation of our inspection unit at the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate. The inspection unit at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, our expert team is monitoring the safety conditions. The team is currently at the Pivdенно-Ukrainska nuclear power plant, but as soon as they are ready to get relocated to Energodar, because their base is actually at Energodar, we have all the personnel ready, and we will prepare the facilities for their operation. In cooperation with Energoatom as an operating organization, we prepare the plan of actions. So first step of such inspection will be the inspection of equipment, which is vitally necessary for the safety and security of the operation of the nuclear power plant. We have to assess the condition of the equipment and, so to say, to approve the relevant plan of actions to ensure safe operation of the nuclear power plant, because currently we don't know what is the condition of the equipment, of the safety equipment at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. We also have some experience of resumption of the safe operation of facilities after the occupation of Black Sea of Chernobyl exclusion zone. We have a set of documents for resumption of operation of such enterprises, and also to resumption of operations during the phase of recovery. And those protocols will be applied after the liberation of Zaporizhia NPP. Thank you very much. We have questions on the floor. Good afternoon, Valentin Marchuk, Ukrinform. There was information that IAEA refused to create the safe exclusion zone around Zaporizhia NPP. why did it happen in your opinion, and what are other options? Thank you for this question. IAEA keeps working on Zaporizhia nuclear power plant upon invitation of Ukraine, specifically of Ukraine. And IAEA, they fulfill the resolutions of United Nations Organization, the General Assembly of IAEA too, and in compliance with those resolutions, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is the property of Ukraine, and the legal owner of Zaporizhia NPP is the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate and Ukrenergoatom. So this is how IAEA supports the approach proclaimed by Ukraine, that the only way to ensure the proper, its safe and secure operation of Zaporizhia NPP is demilitarization and the occupation of the power plant and its return under the control of the Ukrainian regulator. With approach like this, we see the consent of the occupiers who ruin all the system of nuclear and radiation safety and security and don't comply with the resolutions of the United Nations Organization and IAEA. And in this view, IAEA is deprived of any possibility to create such safety zone because the Russian occupiers do not leave the nuclear power plant, and any compromise is unacceptable in this regard. It's exclusively Ukrainian property, Ukrainian territory, and we should only see it in this way. Thank you. Another question: how many time and how much resources are needed to resume normal operation of Chernobyl nuclear power plant and exclusion zone in a way that it existed before the 24th of February? Well, thank you for the question. I don't think that anybody can provide any proper assessment in terms of time because currently we don't really know the exact condition of equipment because we don't know how the occupiers will be leaving the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and what we will get after they leave, what we will get back as our property into our ownership. Here we have an important asset, which is the IAEA mission, who monitors the situation, and in case of any attempts by the occupiers to damage or destroy something there, we will find out about that in a prompt manner and react respectively. That may influence as an information component. Well, there was a question about Chernobyl nuclear power plant. How many time and resources do we need to bring it back into the condition that exists there before the 24th of February? As to the Chernobyl NPP and Chernobyl exclusion zone, the facilities, I mean the storage for the processed nuclear fuel and the object confinement at the territory of Chernobyl NPP did not suffer significant damage, and the licenses for operation of the facility were reinstated by the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorates. So in terms of safety and security, we don't have any questions to them. Well, the Ministry of Environment was stating that to inspect the sarcophagus, the object confinement, €1 million is required, and there were talks that France could help with that. So can you please tell us whether there are still or already works underway in this regard, and what is the condition of sarcophagus itself? Thank you. For the time being, in terms of security, we use the term the new safe confinement, the object confinement, and Chernobyl nuclear power plant is a properly licensed organization who act within their license issued by the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate. The operation of the object is being exercised within that license, and relevant activities are underway, and the safety conditions are within the license. Thank you. And the last question, you mentioned that a number of countries are already helping Ukraine to renew what the occupiers have destroyed. So what is the scale of such support that you mentioned in the beginning of your address about those 12 countries that you mentioned who have agreed to help us? Well, I have information only about the equipment and systems. The funds are being forwarded at resumption of the monitoring systems. There are funds allocated for personal protective equipment for the personnel, transport vehicles for those enterprises, the consumables, spare parts to resume normal operation of some equipment. As to the amount of aid coming, it's not question to us, but rather to the direct recipients of that aid who show it in their accounting. Thank you. Thank you for joining our broadcast. I'm reminding you, joining us was Oleg Korikov, the active chairman and chief state inspector for nuclear and radiation safety of Ukraine. Our team is working on the schedule of our briefings for tomorrow, so bear with us, follow our announcements, and we continue working for our victory and glory to Ukraine.